Which of the following is not a permissible pill? Bonded labor rescue, custodial violence, personal contractual dispute between two private parties, pollution control. The right choice is C. Personal contractual dispute between two private parties. Under the BNSS, the maximum period of completing investigation in offences punishable with up to 10 years imprisonment is 90 days, 1 year, 60 days, 180 days. The right choice is 60 days. Under section 187 of BNSS, investigation in offences punishable with imprisonment up to 10 years must be completed within 60 days. Under the Information Technology Act 2000, a digital signature must be authenticated by use of an ordinary password, a biometric photograph alone, any handwritten signature scanned, an asymmetric crypto system, and hash function. D is the right choice. Under Order 6, Rule 17 of the CPC, the court may allow a party to amend pleadings on just terms, implead the state always, strike off the defense, withdraw the suit unconditionally. A. Amend pleadings on just terms. Under the BSA 2023, electronic records are expressly recognized and treated on par with C is the right choice, primary documentary evidence. Under Section 34 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, an arbitral award may be set aside on the ground of conflict with the public policy of India. C is the right choice. Under Article 19(1)(a), the right to freedom of speech may be reasonably restricted on which ground listed below? Sovereignty and integrity of India. D is the right choice. Under the BCA rules, an advocate is generally prohibited from soliciting work or advertising in violation of the rules. D is the right choice. Under the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam 2023, a dying declaration falls under the category of statements by persons who cannot be called as witness. C is the right choice. Under Section 9 of the CPC, civil courts have jurisdiction to try all suits of civil nature except those expressly or impliedly barred. C is the right choice. Section 84 of the IPC, now mirrored in the BNS, recognizes which general defense. Act of a person of unsound mind. B is the right choice. Under the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881, dishonor of a check for insufficiency of funds is punishable under Section 138. A is the right choice. Judicial review of administrative action in India is generally available on which ground? Illegality, irrationality, and procedural impropriety. D is the right choice. Under the Consumer Protection Act 2019, unfair trade practice is defined in Section 247. D is the right choice. Which schedule to the Constitution contains provisions relating to anti-defection of legislators? The 10th schedule. B is the right choice. Under the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita BNSS 2023, the registration of an FIR for cognizable offences is governed by Section 173. The offence of cheating, earlier under IPC Section 420, is now substantially covered under which BNS section? Section 318. D is the right choice. Under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, gratuity is generally payable on completion of continuous service of 5 years. Choice A is the right choice. Under the CPC, an order rejecting a plaint is appealable as a decree under Section 2(2). So B is the right choice. Under the Indian Evidence Act 1872, a leading question is one which suggests the answer expected from the witness. So C is the right choice. Under the Copyright Act 1957, copyright in a literary work generally subsists for the lifetime of the author plus 60 years. So B is the right choice. Under Section 13 of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, divorce may be granted on the ground of cruelty. A is the right choice. Under the BSA 2023, secondary evidence of the contents of a document may be given when the original is lost or destroyed. D is the right choice. Under the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita BNSS 2023, anticipatory bail is now provided under Section 480. D is the right choice. Under the Indian Contract Act 1872, an agreement made under coercion is voidable at the option of the aggrieved party. A is the right choice. The directive principles of state policy are contained in which part of the Constitution? The fourth part. So A is the right choice. Public interest litigation in India was significantly developed by judicial creativity, primarily under which provision? Article 32 and Article 226 of the Indian Constitution. C is the right choice. Under the Industrial Disputes Act 1947, retrenchment is defined in Section 200. D is the right choice. Under the Guardians and Wards Act 1890, the paramount consideration in appointing a guardian is welfare of the minor. B is the right choice. The polluter pays principle was authoritatively recognized by the Supreme Court in Vellore Citizens Welfare Forum versus Union of India. C is the right choice. Under the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita 2023, examination of witnesses may now be conducted through audio, video, electronic means. A is the right choice. Section 530 of BNSS 2023 expressly permits all trials, inquiries and proceedings, including examination of witnesses, to be conducted through audio, video, electronic means. Under Section 2H of the Indian Contract Act 1872, a contract is an arrangement enforceable by law, distinguishing legally binding agreements from mere social arrangements. B is the right choice. In Pill, the rule of locus standi has been substantially relaxed to permit public spirited persons. C is the right choice. Under the BSA 2023, statements amounting to admissions are dealt with broadly under provisions corresponding to provisions on admissions and confessions in BSA 2023 correspond to sections 17 to 31 of the old IEA, which deal with the relevancy of such statements as a class. D is the right choice. Under the CPC, the inherent powers of civil courts to make orders to meet the ends of justice are saved by Section 151. C is the right choice. Another BNSS, the magistrate's power to take cognizance of an offence is provided in Section 223. The power of a magistrate to take cognizance of an offence, formerly Section 190 of CRPC, is now contained in Section 223. B is the right choice. The President of India is elected by an electoral college consisting of elected members of Parliament and elected members of state legislative assemblies. B is the right choice. Under the Companies Act 2013, the minimum number of members required to incorporate a private company is 2. B is the right choice. Confessions made to a police officer were inadmissible under which provisions of the Indian Evidence Act 1872? Section 25. Section 25 expressly bars proof of confessions made to a police officer against the accused. Under the Specific Relief Act 1963, after the 2018 amendment, specific performance is generally enforceable with limited exceptions. B is the right choice. Under the Information Technology Act 2000, identity theft is specifically punishable under Section 66C. So C is the right choice. Under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, the offence of Terrorist Act is specifically defined and punished under Section 113. So C is the right choice. The principle of absolute liability for hazardous industries was evolved by the Supreme Court in MC Mehta versus Union of India, oleum gas leak. The doctrine of absolute liability, stricter than Rylands versus Fletcher rule and without exceptions, was evolved by the Supreme Court. Which article of the Constitution of India guarantees the right to constitutional remedies? Article 32, described by Dr. Ambedkar as the heart and soul of the Constitution. A is the right choice. Under the CPC, the procedure for execution of decrees is obtained in Order 21. Order 21 of the CPC, the longest order in the code, exclusively governs the procedure for execution of decrees and orders. A is the right choice. Under Article 356, the proclamation of President's rule must ordinarily be approved by Parliament within two months. D is the right choice. The principle of strict liability was laid down in Rylands versus Fletcher. A is the right choice. Under the BNSS, the time limit prescribed for filing of charge sheets in offences punishable up to 10 years is the charge sheet must be filed within 60 days of arrest for offences punishable with punishment up to 10 years. A is the right choice. Under the Special Marriage Act 1954, the minimum notice period for solemnizing a marriage is 30 days. B is the right choice. Under Section 96 of the CPC, an appeal lies from it's a general right of first appeal from every original decree passed by a court exercising original jurisdiction. save where the code or any other law expressly bars it. Under Section 25F of the Industrial Disputes Act 1947, retrenchment of a workman requires inter alia 1 month's notice or wages in lieu and retrenchment compensation. A is the right choice. Under the Muslim Personal Law, Shariat, Application Act 1937, matters listed therein are governed by Muslim Personal Law, also known as Shariat. Under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, interior measures by the court may be sought under Section 9. D is the right choice. Under the Income Tax Act 1961, residential status of an assessee is determined under Section 6. Section 6 of the Income Tax Act 1961 sets out the rules for determining the residential status of an individual, HUF, firm or company for tax purposes. Under the Indian Contract Act 1872, an agreement without consideration is, as a rule, void. As a general rule, an agreement without consideration is void, subject only to the specific exceptions enumerated in this section. B is the right choice. Under the Motor Vehicles Act 1988, the concept of no fault liability is contained in Section 140. No fault liability principle for compensation in cases of death or permanent disablement from motor accidents. C is the right choice. Next, the National Green Tribunal was established under which legislation? National Green Tribunal Act 2010. C is the right choice. The principle audi alteram partem broadly mandates the other side must be heard. So, A is the right choice. Under the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, which statement on Sapinda relationship is correct? Section 3F of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 defines the Sapinda relationship as extending up to third generation inclusive in the line of ascent through the mother and the fifth through the father. So D is the right choice. In which case did the Supreme Court evolve the doctrine of basic structure of the Constitution? The doctrine of basic structure was evolved by a 13-judge bench of the Supreme Court in Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala in 1973, holding that Parliament cannot amend the basic structure of the Constitution. Which provision of the BNS 2023 introduces organized crime as a distinct offence? Section 111. B is the right choice. Under the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881, a promissory note is defined in Section 4. A is the right choice. The fundamental duties of citizens were inserted into the Constitution by which Constitutional Amendment Act? The 42nd Amendment. So A is the right choice. Under the Indian Evidence Act 1872, the burden of proof in a civil suit ordinarily lies upon the party who would fail if no evidence were given on either side. So D is the right choice. Aarti and Rajesh, married under HMA 1955, seek divorce by mutual consent. The relevant provision is Section 13B. Inserted in 1976, specifically provides for divorce by mutual consent of the parties to a Hindu marriage. B is the right choice. Under the 2013 Act, a social impact assessment is generally required to assess affected families and public purpose impact. So B is the right choice. The doctrine of legitimate expectation in administrative law is primarily a facet of natural justice and Article 14. So C is the right choice. Under the CGST Act 2017, supply as a taxable event is defined in Section 7. It defines supply as a taxable event encompassing all forms of supply of goods or services made for consideration in the course of or furtherance of business. Under Article 21, the expression procedure established by law must, after Maneka Gandhi's case, also satisfy the test of fairness, justness and reasonableness. So C is the right choice. Under the Legal Services Authorities Act 1987, the awards of Lok Adalat adalats are deemed decrees of a civil code and are final. Under Order 7, Rule 11 of the CPC, a plaint shall be rejected when inter alia it does not disclose a cause of action. Treating cause of action as the very foundation of the suit. So A is the right choice. Under the Consumer Protection Act 2019, the pecuniary jurisdiction of the District Commission is up to ₹1 crore. C is the right choice. An advocate's appeal from an order of the disciplinary committee of the BCI lies to Supreme Court. D is the right choice. Under the Transfer of Property Act 1882, a mortgage by deposit of title deeds is also called equitable mortgage, which is recognized in equity and hence commonly termed as equitable mortgage. Which section of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita BNS 2023 introduces the offence of snatching as a distinct offence? Section 304. Under Order 39 of the CPC, the court may grant which of the following? Temporary injunctions and interlocutory orders. D is the right choice. Under the CRPC 1973, Section 144 empowered an executive magistrate to issue orders to prevent apprehended danger, obstruction, annoyance, or breach of public tranquility. B is the right choice. Under Section 89 of the CPC, courts are empowered to refer disputes for settlement through arbitration, conciliation, mediation, or Lok Adalat. So B is the right choice. Under the BNSS, summary trial is generally permissible for offences punishable with imprisonment up to 3 years. A is the right choice. Under Section 283 of BNSS, magistrates may try in a summary way offences punishable with imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years. Goods and Services Tax in India was introduced by which constitutional amendment? The 101st Amendment to the Constitution of India. A is the right choice. An advocate is duty bound to maintain confidentiality of client communications. This duty is rooted in BCA rules and the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam. Land acquisition for public purpose in India is now primarily governed by which act? A. Right to Fair Compensation and Transparency in Land Acquisition Act 2013. Another IPC, Section 300 lays down exceptions to murder. Which of these is one such exception? D. Grave and sudden provocation is an exception. Which case is widely regarded as a landmark on locus standi and public interest litigation in India? Under the Income Tax Act 1961, the previous year in relation to assessment year 2026 and 27 is the financial year 2025-26. So B is the right choice. Under the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam 2023, the term evidence is defined in Section 2. Evidence is one of the terms defined there. Under the CRPC 1973, an order for maintenance of wife, children and parents was provided under Section 125 of the CRPC, now mirrored in the BNSS, provided summary remedy for maintenance of wives, children and parents unable to maintain themselves. Under the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam 2023, the doctrine of res gestae corresponds to facts forming part of same transaction. B is the right choice. Goods and Services Tax in India was introduced by which constitutional amendment? The 101st. No, 89. Under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, C in writing. Sorry, C. Soham, a software entrepreneur, finds that FitLife is being used by a rival firm. Best protection lies under Trademarks Act 1999. So D is the right choice. Under the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the conditions of a valid Hindu marriage are enumerated in section 5. So B is the right choice. This enumerates the substantial conditions for a valid Hindu marriage. Which article empowers the High Courts to issue writs for enforcement of fundamental and other legal rights? Article 226 of the Constitution empowers every High Court to issue writs not only for the enforcement of fundamental rights but also for any other purpose, giving it wider scope than Article 32. Under the Hindu Succession Act, Amendment Act 2005, daughters of a co-parcener have co-parcenary rights equal to sons. See, the State Bar Council's disciplinary committee. Under the Companies Act 2013, the doctrine of lifting the corporate veil is judicially invoked when the corporate form is used to perpetrate fraud, the Code on Wages 2019 consolidates and replaces which of the following enactments? C. Payment of Wages Act, Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Bonus Act and Equal Remuneration Act. Under the Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005, daughters of a co-parcener have co-parcenary rights equal to sons. D is the right choice. Under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, punishment for the offence of murder is contained in Section 103. D is the right choice. Under the Transfer of Property Act 1882, sale of immovable property is defined in Section 54 of the TP Act. Sale of an immovable property as a transfer of ownership in exchange for a price paid or promised. Rajesh, in anger, fractures Sunil's arm with a rod, disabling it for weeks. Which BNS offence is made out? Causing a fracture is expressly enumerated in the definition of grievous hurt. The intentional infliction thereof attracts punishment under section 117 BNS for voluntarily causing grievous